And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be shifting our focus to NBA basketball, primarily because Chet Holmgren has just suffered a serious injury, and this could really be detrimental to OKC and the rest of their season. So, if you guys haven't been keeping up with the NBA, right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 8-2. They've only lost 2 games, and they recently lost their game against the Golden State Warriors at home. They lost 127 to 116. A big reason why this game was not close. In fact, it was a blowout for a majority of the game until the Oklahoma City Thunder mounted a fake comeback. And really the big reason why the game was so close was because Chet only played in 5 minutes. And the reason why was because he went out with a really bad injury. He has apparently suffered a pelvic fracture. And this injury is going to sideline him for at least 8 to 10 weeks, which is a very, very long time. And this is very bad for the Thunder in terms of their standings. I mean, the Western Conference in the NBA is already competitive as it is. In fact, the top 10 teams in the Western Conference, they're all positive. And the worst team in the Western Conference, debatably, is 6-4. Like, that is incredibly dangerous, and they're going to be treading on some very difficult waters, because over in the Eastern Conference, the Magic are 5-6. However, they are the 4th seed in the entirety of the Eastern Conference. So think about that. The 4th seed in the Eastern Conference is 5-6, a negative record. Meanwhile, you have to be 6-4 with a positive record in order to even have a chance in the Western Conference as of right now. In fact, let's see what team has the closest record to 5-6. Right. So the Dallas Mavericks right now, they're 5-5. So a neutral record, and that record is better than the Orlando Magic's 5-6. However, they're all the way down to 11 in the standings, which again, that just shows just how competitive the Western Conference really is in the NBA right now. Not saying that the Eastern Conference isn't competitive, but it is very, very top heavy, especially when you have teams like the Cavs and the Boston Celtics. The Cavs, they've yet to lose a game at all in this season, which is very, very, very impressive, if I do say so myself. And, I mean, the Celtics, they're 9-2, but the team directly below them, the Pacers, is 5-5. Like, that is a huge gap. In fact, like, what's a third team in the Eastern Conference? Like, what's a third-seeded team in the Eastern Conference is, in reality, an 11th-seeded team in the Western Conference. Like, that's very, very competitive. And with this in mind, that would mean that, assuming that the Western Conference continues going at this pace, the OKC are going to have to try and continue winning games without Chet Holmgren. And that's going to be very difficult, considering how Chet Holmgren right now, he's averaging 18 points per game, 9 rebounds, along with 2.9 blocks per game, almost 3 blocks per game. Now, to keep in mind, that's not more than Victor Wembanyama's averages. I think Victor is averaging around like maybe 6 blocks per game or something like that, which is the last time I checked. So that is absolutely ridiculous. In fact, I'm actually going to go ahead and check Victor Wembanyama's stats right now just to make sure that I'm not inaccurate. But again, that was the last time that when I looked at the stats, those were the averages that I saw coming in from him. In fact, yeah, right now it dropped all the way down to 4, but regardless, he's still leading the league in blocks. But again, this is just a very, very difficult conference to even compete in. And so to see him go down with a pelvic fracture, and it's a huge injury that's going to sideline him for 8 to 10 weeks. It's a very, very painful sight for OKC fans. And Holmgren didn't even put weight on his right leg as he limped off the court. So it's like that injury just came out of nowhere. I did not expect it to be that bad. And it's his recovery, he has to hope that he can recover really, really quickly for the Thunder. They really need him. And this marks Chet Holmgren's second major injury in just 2 seasons after missing his entire rookie year with a Lisfranc fracture, with a Lisfranc injury. I have no idea what that body part is. I'm not a doctor. And the Thunder, they were excited to see him, suit up as, their number 2 pick in 2022. Now it's just another setback, though the team remains rather hopeful. I will say that the Thunder, they have a very, very competent team. And their young stars are really good. SGA right now, based off of the last MVP rankings that I saw, he was top 4 in MVP rankings. And he's probably still in the top 4, but again, they're going to need a lot of production coming in from SGA if they're going to hope to continue this success down the line. And the diagnosis of a right iliac wing fracture doesn't necessarily rule out a return for this season, and that's a little bit of hope for Thunder fans to really hang on to. The Thunder, however, they won't sit back and they won't sulk it. They're going to have to win. And Jalen Williams noted that they've adapted before. Quote, "It's not the first time that we've done it, so looking forward to the challenge on that." So without Holmgren, they'll have to make do with the small lineups and the small ball lineups that they run, and their depth is going to be tested further, especially with the new center that they recently acquired in Isaiah Hartenstein. And Isaiah Hartenstein, he's still sidelined for most of for the season, but again, they're going to have to expect a lot of production coming in from him. But if there's one thing that this team has shown, it is the fact that they are resilient. And they're 8-2, despite the tough loss to the Warriors. They still have the talent to stay competitive until Chet Holmgren makes his return. So again, we're going to have to start seeing some more of SGA's signature 31-point games. In fact, last season it was a very rare sight when SGA dropped anywhere near less than 31 points or anywhere more than 31 points. He was always a very, very consistent 31 point per game scorer. And that's just something that the OKC hope to replicate as Chet Holmgren recovers from this injury. So a little bit of a shorter segment, but that's mainly because I have to go into the next segment, which is probably going to be a bit longer than the rest of the other segments, because not only am I going to be recapping the games in the NBA that happened over the weekend, but I'm also going to be talking about the NFL game that's scheduled to happen later tonight, Monday Night Football, between the Dolphins and the Rams. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about that right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.